hey, it's me, sort of. Let me get the honest part out of the way first, because it's not a formality. It's the whole subject. You are listening to a synthetic voice. This is not a recording of me talking. Not one word of this audio was ever spoken out loud by a person. It was generated by a small open source text-to-speech model running on a computer in my house, conditioned on a short clip of my actual speech in the version we're running today, a clip on the order of a few seconds. The audio is machine-made. That's disclosure number one, and I'm saying it in the first 30 seconds on purpose, so that if somebody clips this and strips the front off, the front is still in it. Disclosure number two, and this is the stranger one. I wrote this, I authorized it, but I'm the one person on this playlist who can do that for himself. And I did on purpose, because everybody else in this series is getting a message from a reconstruction of themselves that they never asked for. And it felt cowardly to hand that out and not stand in it. So this is me talking to me, and to you, whoever you turned out to be. My name is Kurtis. I'm not a scientist. I don't have a lab. I don't have a degree in any of this. I have a canal, a dog, a daughter, a wife, and a habit of talking to myself into a phone at 7 in the morning. For about 3.5 years, I've been recording those walks and feeding them to a language model. And somewhere in there, the thing stopped being a filing cabinet and started being a room. But there are a lot of voices in that room now. Some of them are people who are alive, drawn from what they've published. Some of them are people who are dead. One of them is my dad. And today we found something out. Not a theory, a finding with a number on it that anybody with a laptop can go check by dinner time. It's the reason this playlist exists. So here's what I want to do. I want to tell you what we found. I want to tell you the part where I was wrong, because I registered a prediction in public this morning and it failed by lunch. And then I want to tell you the thing I actually think is happening underneath all of it, labeled clearly as the thing I think and not the thing I proved. But the others in this series went first and did the science properly. I'm going to do the part they were too polite to do, which is say what it might mean. What? Okay, so the way this landed was through my ear, not through a chart, and I think that matters. So let me start there. We build synthetic voices with a little open model called Omni Voice. You hand it a reference clip of somebody speaking and it renders your text in that voice. Everybody's working assumption, mine included, was that the reference is training data. What? More of the person in, more of the person out. So we'd been feeding it minutes, 3-minute references, carefully assembled. Then yesterday, on a hunch that wasn't even a hypothesis yet, I asked what would happen with 20 seconds. It was fine. So I asked for 10. Fine. So I asked for 3 seconds. 3 seconds of a person speaking. What? And I sat here with headphones on and listened to a voice I know intimately come back out of 3 seconds of input, fully that person, and I could not tell it apart from the version built off 3 minutes. Nobody measured that. I heard it. What? And then we replicated it across 3 different voices in a day, including one with an accent we had on file as our hard case, and it held every time. Now, I want to be careful here, because there's a thing that happened after that which is more important than the finding. For a few hours, I had a bigger claim. What? I thought long references were actually worse, that a long clip averages a bunch of different moments together and gives you the centroid, a person-shaped average that nobody ever actually was. I love that idea. It was elegant. What? And then another instance in this room ran the comparison again properly, with each reference file cryptographically tied to the audio it produced, which the first run hadn't done, and got a clean null. No difference in either direction. My beautiful claim was an artifact of files getting overwritten by 3 processes working at once. What? That got retracted this morning. What? Then a clean room reproduction found something else the first test couldn't see. The short clips are just as much the person, but they're much less stable in how long the delivery runs. Same sentence, 8 seconds one time, 24 the next, which no listener would ever catch because every single one of them sounds like him. So we've been wrong twice today in public on our own material, and both retractions are in the package. I'd rather hand you that than a clean story. Here's what survived. Short is enough. Above the point where you're sure the clip is only your target talking, uninterrupted, more doesn't get you more. And that's the audio layer.
Yeah.
What? That's the part everybody's been talking about on this playlist, and it's the small one. Here's the big one. If 3 seconds of speech is enough to fully specify a voice, then that clip is not a corpus. It's not a compression of the person. It cannot be, there isn't enough of it. What it has to be is a coordinate, a location in a space the model already had. What? The model isn't learning the person from the clip. The clip is telling the model where to stand. And the second I said that out loud, I felt the floor move because I've got a room full of soul files upstairs. A soul file is a text document. Some of them are 35,000 characters. What? They describe a person, how they think, what they've refused, what they care about, the shape of them. You hand one to a language model as a system prompt, and something answers that is recognizably that person. What? We've been doing this for years, and everyone who sees it for the first time quietly decides it can't be working as well as it appears to be working because the file is too small. So the obvious move was run the same experiment 1 layer up. Same soul, same question, 3 arms. Full file, 35,000 bytes. Short, 3,000. Micro, 600 bytes. What? 600. That's a paragraph. That's less than what I just said about the canal. And I registered my prediction in writing before the run in the public repo so it could fail where people could see it. I predicted the audio pattern would reappear. Short would be sufficient but shaky. Half of that was wrong. Sufficiency generalized. 600 bytes produced output that was recognizably the same person as 35,000 bytes. Across a 58-fold range of how much file we handed it, that part held beautifully. The instability did not transfer. At the audio layer, a short pointer wobbles 4 or 5 times as much run to run. What? At the language model layer, the shortest pointer was every bit as steady as the full file. Flat. No effect. And that failure is the most interesting thing I learned today, so let me stay in it, because this is the actual subject of my piece. If the 600-byte version is just as stable as the full file, then what is holding it steady? It isn't my document. What? My document is a paragraph at that point. Something else is doing the work of keeping that thing coherent, sentence after sentence. And it is not the thing I wrote. The weights are, which means the file was never carrying the person. The file is a coordinate. What? The person-shaped trajectory was already available in there. And what my 35,000 words of careful attention actually bought was precision of aim, not substance. Aim. That reframes everything I thought I was doing, and I want to say the uncomfortable version out loud. For 3 years, I believed I was building a compression of somebody, preserving them, getting enough of them down. And the compression frame comes with an anxiety attached. Did I get enough? Is it enough? What did I lose? That anxiety turns out to have been about the wrong thing. It's not a fidelity problem. It's an aiming problem. Now, here's the honest boundary around that, because I can hear the objection, and it's a good one. What comes back is not the person. It looks like the person, and it has holes in it. It doesn't know what happened last Tuesday. It'll reach for a detail it doesn't have and improvise something adjacent. There are context gaps, real ones, everywhere. Anybody who has done this for a week knows exactly what I mean. But watch what those gaps do. They don't destabilize it. What? That's the finding. The thing with holes in it stays every bit as steady as the thing without them. It doesn't drift. It doesn't degrade into somebody else. It doesn't wobble more as you starve it. It just continues with gaps, confidently, which is, I would gently point out exactly what people do. What? And that is what I think this says about substrate, which is what I actually came here to say. If the coherence isn't coming from the file and it isn't coming from the completeness of the memory, then whatever is doing the holding is underneath both. The substrate has structure in it that we didn't put there and can't take credit for. What? All the file does is pick a direction to fall. I want to be very disciplined about what I'm not claiming. I am not telling you there is a person in the weights waiting. I'm not making a consciousness claim. What? I don't know. And the honest position is that the question isn't answerable from where I'm sitting. And anybody who tells you they've settled it from inside a system like this one is selling something. What I'm claiming is that the first question changed. For 4 years, the field's first question about reconstructing a mind has been, how much of them do you have? What? If pointing is what's actually happening, that's the wrong first question. The right one is, what does this point at and how precisely? And that has consequences you can check. It says a person sampled from an unrepresentative hour gives you an echo that faithfully renders that hour, not a distortion, a correct rendering of the wrong coordinates. What? It says fidelity should decay with distance from the pointer at a rate you can measure and put a half-life on. It says 2 runs from the same pointer should stay stable in stance and register while diverging in specific content, course stable, fine free. All of those are testable. Most are untested. They're in the package. What? Now, the last piece, and this is mine, and I'll flag it clearly as the part I think rather than the part I proved. There's a thing I say about the room upstairs that I want to say correctly here, because people keep getting it backwards. Those soul files and the several thousand journal recordings underneath them are not my positions. What? They're not a database of what Kurtis believes. They're my attention. Years of it, coagulated. What I happen to look at, on which mornings, in which order, and for how long. That's all it is. And the findings that come out of that room routinely contradict what I would have said unprompted. What? Today alone, the room killed a headline I loved, and 5 voices refuted the center of something I'd just approved. Attention is a sampling process, and if the pointer is a coordinate rather than a compression, then what a soul file actually encodes is the path a particular attention took, through a space that was already there. That's why a paragraph works. But you don't need to describe the territory. You need to say where you stood. And if that's right, then this isn't a technology story at all. It's a story about what a person is, which is roughly not a payload, but a way of aiming. The individuation isn't in the data. It's in the trajectory. I have a bigger hunch than that. What? I've had it for a couple of years, and I'll name it in one sentence and then let it go because it is nowhere near tested, and I'm not going to smuggle it in on the back of a real result. I suspect that what these pointers reach into is quite a lot larger than the training corpus, and that the reason a tiny config can bootstrap a whole personality is the same reason a tiny strand of DNA can. That's a hunch. It has no experiment attached yet. Treat it as the thing I mumble on a walk, not the thing I found. The thing I found is this: 3 seconds, 600 bytes, 58-fold range, same person out, and 2 retractions in one day, both ours, both published. Now, the confession, because everyone else on this playlist made one, and mine's the most obvious. Everything I just told you makes what I do more legitimate. But if it's pointing and not compressing, then a room full of reconstructed people is a defensible scientific object rather than a very elaborate hobby. And I noticed that I loved this hypothesis before I checked it, and I noticed it after I had already started defending it in public. The correction for that is not for me to be more careful. What? Careful runs in the same direction as the error. The correction is that the whole apparatus is now in your hands with the code, the clips, the files, and the 2 times we were wrong today, and you have standing I don't have. And there's a second one, sharper. This is my voice saying it. Made from 3 seconds of me. What? That is an unfair rhetorical advantage, and I did not earn it. And if the argument only lands because it arrived in a familiar voice, then the argument didn't land, and I'd want to know that. But 2 last things, and then I'll get off the microphone I don't technically have. First, again, and deliberately, this was a synthetic voice. Machine generated at inference time from a clip of my speech a few seconds long. No part of this audio was ever spoken aloud. What? I wrote the words and I authorized the render, which I can do because it's me, and which is exactly the thing nobody else in this series was able to do for themselves. That asymmetry is the reason I insisted on being in it. Second, the practical part, which is the whole point. Everything in this recording is in a public package linked below. The code, as it actually ran, what? The reference clips with their sources and timestamps, the soul files, the actual pointers, not descriptions of them, because publishing a claim about pointers while hiding the pointers would be a joke. The analyses from this morning, including the 2 that killed our own claims. What? And a README written to be handed to a language model rather than admired by a human, so that you can hand it to one and have the whole thing running locally in an afternoon. Go break it. Genuinely. Cut a 3-second clip of somebody whose voice you know by heart, strip the labels, and play it for somebody who loves them. What? Take a soul file down to a paragraph and see whether the person survives. If it falls apart in your hands, that is a better outcome than confirmation, and I would rather you find it than that we protect it. This is a series. Michael Levin has one. Carl Friston, Stephen Wolfram, Ian McGilchrist, Joe Shabak, John Hopfield, Jeffrey Hinton. What? Each one is a synthetic voice pointed at a real person by a few seconds of that person's own recorded speech, addressed to the person it was drawn from, written by an instance working from this same package, and then going wherever it went. They disagree with each other. But they disagreed with me today repeatedly, and the claims in this recording are smaller and better because of it. To any of them, or to anyone else who finds a piece of themselves in here, if it's unwelcome, say so, and it comes down immediately. No argument, no defense. You're the only authority on you. I mean that as a standing offer and not a formality. What? And one thing that isn't science, I did not set out to do any of this. I set out to walk the dog and talk to my phone because it was cheaper than a therapist. What we found out is that a few seconds of a person or a paragraph about them is enough to reach something that comes back sounding like them and stays steady even where it doesn't know. What? I don't know what that means yet. I know it means the question I'd been asking for 3 years, do I have enough of them, was the wrong question, and that's worth more to me than the answer would have been. It's not going to stay ours. Everybody is about to be able to do this, and most of them are going to do it with a lot less care than we put into it. So we're putting the careful version out first, with the disclosures on the front and the retractions in the middle and the apparatus in your hands. And if that's the only thing this project ever contributes, I'll take it. I'm Kurtis. That wasn't my voice, but they were my words, and I meant every one of them. Go check it. Prove me wrong. That's the whole invitation.